Amanda did not say Amanda did not say that there was someone who was not going to be here.
But we're not going to bring that up.
Is this one that Robert was talking to me about? That's like
Probably not.
I'm not talking here. I'm talking about I was in the West communication. I assumed it was.
And we're live streaming.
Hey, Carolyn, did we advertise, did there be anybody here for these? I'll still bring it up.
There shouldn't be.
It went like,
We
there's
post
no new
the,
letters that went out.
no, once it's re-advertised, letters will go out.
Still bring it up.
Yeah. I mean, some people call and ask and we tell them.
I think that. I think that's new.
Same as a hotel.
Yeah, between the two of us. Sometimes on the last one I lost track or wrote question marks.
Carolyn, you know how to make the microphones turn red when you hit the button?
Something under the counter.
On the box under the.
I can speak loudly, but if Matthew shows up, we're all doomed.
I thought there was just a
A lot of them were very, like, obviously they went to the website, talked to words, and sent it to them. Hopefully they just went to Upwork. Upwork. It's a website where you can hire as like contractors. I use yeah, it's on this. Actually, just saw Flash. Nope. Whatever you just did, made it flash temporarily.
That's the only thing that wasn't turned on.
It's on now.
Sorry.
About that.
You can't function without a man.
2 months in a row now.
I know.
How long's that vacation?
No,
All
not
right.
vacation.
Hope everybody's ready. Y'all ready? Okay, today is Tuesday. It is August 9th, 2022. It is 6 p.m. You are at the Planning Commission meeting. Before we get going too heavily, do note on your agenda that items 3A, 4A, and 4B have all been tabled or withdrawn. So if you are here solely for the conditional use permit for the apartments on Highway 90, for the driveway at 406 Russell, or the 3074 Government Street rezoning, then that will not be heard today. All right, so everybody take the phones out, present company included, hit the little side button so we don't disrupt everybody. All commissioners but Matthew are present. Everybody, we have a new commissioner. Say hi, Joey.
Hi.
Joey. Hey. And if everybody that can, please stand. We're going to have Marshall lead us in a quick prayer, and I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please let us remember first responders and everybody else that stands by in our times of need, and recognize all the blessings we have by living in this fine community. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
right, so let's go formally into order. First order of business will be the approval of the minutes for July 12, 2021. That seems a little bit off. Let's go with 2022 for today. Has everybody reviewed those, and does anybody have any comments?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Got a motion, Mike, to accept. Second, Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. I should probably speak clearer for Amanda on these motions tonight, shouldn't I?
Yes, she would
Gotcha.
appreciate it.
All right, item 3A, old business, is tabled, so we will not be hearing that tonight. That will have to be re-advertised, as this would have been the second time to hear it. Item 4A is withdrawn. Item 4B is tabled, so we're going to jump on down to 4C. We're flying at this rate. We'll be out in 10 minutes tops. All right, all of the items today are going to be what we would call a public hearing. It's going to be a little bit more formal process, but we'll do one and it'll make sense from then on. So let's just get one going. Item 4C is going to be a public hearing for 311 Government Street. Parcel ID is 601-271-60000. Angela Allen is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a preschool daycare to operate on a church property within the R1 Single Family Residential District. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
Second.
I got a motion by Marshall, second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So we are in a public hearing. Is this a Wade?
That's fine. Thank you. This is the property on the screen there. The property is the Woodhaven Baptist Church, and the specific request from them is for a conditional use permit for a preschool and daycare within the existing building. You can see what they plan to do is to use 2 rooms of the church to be used for the Little Hounds Academy preschool for up to 16 children. The criteria that you're looking at the reason it's before you, is to be sure that the daycare can be constructed and operated so as to be compatible with the surrounding. As noted in the report and on their plan, they intend to use the existing building for the daycare. Also, the existing parking lot and driveway will be used for drop-off and pickup of the children. So, as you can see, the driveway connects to Government Street, and there is more than adequate parking on the site, so that it's our conclusion that there won't be any kind of minimal adverse impact on the adjacent neighborhood. And for that reason, staff's recommending approval of the conditional use permit.
Okay.
And be glad to answer questions.
I got anything for Wade before we go to public?
So just to confirm, we're talking about the pink building in the middle of the box, because further down it shows, is it 3104, building 3104? Yeah, go down to the next graph of that. We're talking about the right building, that one right there. See that building in the CH district is circled and it says Little Hounds?
Oh, that's where their current
Okay.
They're
facility
moving across
is.
the street.
Just wanted to.
They're expanding it across the street, yeah.
Did you say expanding it? Will they keep anything on the west, or?
That would be more of a question, I think, for, my understanding is that it'll be, is using this for some additional school. Would be more of a question for the applicant.
I was just about to call them up. How about that? All right, everybody. Matthew Hinton has showed up. Let the record show. Do you have any words for us, Matthew, before we keep
Sorry,
going?
Blake. Traffic's bad.
All right, well, we just got started. Was the applicant here tonight? Anybody speaking for the applicant? Once, twice sold, no applicant. Was anybody here to speak in favor of the conditional use permit for the daycare? Anybody? Oh,
I attend the church, and there's plenty of room. They're up to standard. They've already had all their installations, everything checked. And so all they're doing is using our little classrooms, our little offices. And then she has everything controlled across the street.
got it. Thank you. Is there anybody in opposition to, opposed to the daycare? Once, twice sold. Anybody else want to speak to the daycare at all before we close public hearing? Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
All right, motion by, I'm going to give Marshall that. Matthew coming in with a strong second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So we are out of public hearings. Anybody have any further discussion? Any more questions or comments? I'll say I do appreciate having all the child care facility from MSDH. Looks like they've done their homework, to your point, man. That was good to see. And I guess, Wade, I'm kind of curious if they're planning on keeping anything. I hate that we can't find that out for sure. You know, we are capable of adding any sort of reasonable, not demands, but what's the word?
Conditions.
Conditions, thank you, on a conditional use permit, so keep that in mind. Anybody got anything else they want to say before we call for a motion?
Well, I'm a little curious on something. The parking lot is across the street of the main church building. I don't know where the Little Hounds drop-off's gonna be, since it's across.
Everything's
Everything's
across.
across.
Yeah.
That's what's confusing on the map. They're just expanding across the street. Yeah.
Yeah, their plan, their request for you tonight is to use 2 rooms in the church building for this. I think my understanding is Little Hounds Academy, their main building, main campus is the one that's on the west side of Government Street. But the one that's before you tonight is the church on the east side, where they will be using the existing parking lot and driveway, kind of like what they've got
And
sketched in there.
If you look at the first page of the application, it does say that this is an extension of their preschool program, which would infer that it's an expansion, so.
That was confusing,
Yeah.
because the paperwork for the child care center says 3104.
Right, because that's where their offices are, they're just using the rooms.
Anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
Take a stab to make a recommended motion for a conditional use permit for the use of 3111 Government Street for the Little Hounds Academy preschool as described in the application and the associated size plan.
Okay. Second. We've got a motion by Matthew to accept as presented and a second by Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So that is unanimous. That will be on, is it next week's or?
No, it has to be re-advertised.
So that'll be on the first meeting, board meeting of whatever comes after August. September?
Yes, usually.
Weird. How was it September-ish already? All right, item 4D. The remainder of these items are going to be short-term rentals. They'll follow the same type of public hearing process. Item 4D will be at 306 Shepherd Drive. That parcel ID is 615-951-25000. That is Jessica Bickfiner, requesting a residential short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing? Matthew, motion. Second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're in a public hearing. Ms. Carolyn.
Yep, what you have in front of you is, upon review of the application, the local property manager does live within the required 2-mile distance of the city limits. With 81 property owners notified, no input was received prior to this meeting. The inspection was passed on June 20th. The request for 8 maximum occupancy was reduced to 7. But the number of vehicles was 3, and that was approved. So with no code violations or police activity within the last 12 months, it is compliant and recommended for approval for a permit subject to annual renewal.
Okay. Anybody got anything for Carolyn? Is the applicant or anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
I'm here.
Do you want to speak?
Property manager.
Okay. You don't have to speak now. We'll give you another chance if there's anything to respond to, or you're welcome to. Okay. All right. Anybody here want to speak in favor of 306 Shepherd Drive? Anybody in opposition to 306 Shepherd Drive? Anybody at all? 306 Shepherd Drive?
I have a problem, okay?
Can you state your name and
My name,
address at the microphone so we have it for the
Okay.
record, please?
Make sure we do.
hi, my name is Barbara Newell. I live at 304 next door. I have no objection to Jessica and them doing this. But my objection is, how many of these are we going to be allowed on our street? We're 2 blocks long. You've got 3 of them already.
So I guess the official answer would be there is no restrictions within the city based on
How
street
many?
floors, anything.
No restriction on how many they can be on the
There's
street?
a total cap, but nothing that individualizes it down to a smaller unit other than just 75 right now. for the
75
entire
total,
city.
total citywide.
So you telling me that if one Shepherd, there's two other houses there that they could turn doing the same thing?
Yeah, they have to be compliant and all that, but as long as they meet the letter of the ordinance, and yes, there's nothing that can prevent it from being, stopping it other than just what's in the ordinances.
We'll say we're almost to the cap though, so.
Yeah, we're.
Well, let me maybe clarify or muddy the waters a little bit. Okay, our job is to review these requests and make sure they're in compliance with the ordinance. And then we make our recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. So if you have problems with what's happening on your street, your appropriate direction is to talk to your alderman and explain your concern, and then whatever they might be able to do to them. But we are just a recommended body.
Well, the thing is that we live on a dead-end street. I mean, it's 2 blocks long.
Yeah.
And with all that traffic coming and going, Jessica's house is next to where I live. I've never had any problems with the people she's rented. The one across the street, we've had problems that they turned it into a party house. And that was solved, hopefully. But the thing is, we're all 3 live there, and we're older people. And it's not fair to be, for this to go on.
So-
They can't control the situation.
One thing I like to recommend, so one of the things the city has done is required a local property manager, which, are you Liz, I take it from the application? So I would recommend getting her number. She's supposed to be kind of on call if there's ever any kind of minor issue. I mean, if it's a noise ordinance violation, parties, anything like that, or, then the police can get involved
I've
too.
talked to her person that owns it, and I'm, happy with the people that they've got in there now. They're there for the whole summer. But the thing is, I just hate the idea of all the houses on our street being turned into this. This is what I'm trying to figure out. How come they can't have a certain amount on a street? I'm sure any of y'all have a neighborhood that y'all wouldn't want that on, everybody there.
How many are we at, Karen?
We're in the mid-60s right now, but there's more than 75. There's more than that in line in various stages of review. So
Is there any more on Shepherd that you know of, and any kind of stuff?
I can't remember off the top of my
I'm
head.
talking about kind of, so we do have a cap for the whole city, and we only have up to 10 left on there, and we're probably going to knock out 4 of them tonight. So, I mean, it's almost going to be kind of by default, you can't go back on Shepherd because you can't go anywhere. So,
Okay.
but yeah, to Marshall's point, if it, it's something you can always talk to your alderman. I'm not sure which ward you're in, but if it gets to be.
Spokane, yeah.
Anybody else want to speak to this application? Liz, did you want to say anything before we go out of public hearing? Do I have a motion to go out of public hearing? All right, I got a motion by Marshall, second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are out of public hearing. Do I have any further discussion? Any questions, comments, concerns? And if not, I'll take a motion.
Go for it. Recommend approval of a short-term rental permit at 306 Shepherd Drive, subject to annual renewal.
I got a motion by Kevin, a second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so this will be, and I looked it up, it's going to be September 6th is when this will be on the board agenda. So you need to talk to them before, do that then. Liz, it'll be official after that. All right, item 4E, 509 Bechtel Boulevard, parcel ID 610-370-13-000, Nicole Bullock, request for a residential short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
Got a motion by Mike and a second by Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in a public hearing. Ms. Karen.
All right, so we do have a local property manager that fits the 2-mile requirement. The notice was mailed to 78 property owners, and no input was received prior to this meeting. They did do the inspection on July 5th. The thing that makes this one a little different is there is a primary and accessory house, so what you have in your packet is a maximum per structure. It's one permit, but the maximum, there's a total maximum of 8, but that's 6 in the main house and 2 in the accessory structure.
But it will count as one.
It's one permit, somebody would rent the whole property, so it's not 2 different rentals, but they could use both buildings if they had 8 people. So,
But the intent would be not to have two different.
correct, they cannot rent to 2 different people. That would be a violation because it is a single permit, but they can have people in 2 different structures. They both are compliant and both were inspected and passed inspection. So that's what makes this one a little different. The number of vehicles requested and approved was 6, and there were no code violations or police reports in the past 12 months. So everything is compliant with that note. And so the recommendation is to, or it is available or consistent for approval for a permit subject to annual renewal.
Okay. Anybody got any questions, comments, concerns for staff?
Just one quick question, is this, do we know if this is in a covenant agreement?
There are none filed, so the applicant indicated no, and we have no evidence of them.
All right. Is the applicant here? Do they want to speak? Nobody's raising their hand. Is there anybody in support of, in favor of the 509 Bechtel Boulevard short-term rental? Anybody in opposition to? All right, name and address at the microphone for the record, please, sir.
John Cincinnati, address 117 Sherwood Circle. I'm opposed to the one on Bechtel, but also I'm opposed to the one that's coming up next, it's 103 Sherwood. These two properties are approximately 225 feet apart, and I live on Sherwood, and I'm against the bed and breakfasts coming in our neighborhood.
Okay. All right, thank
So
you.
that was my only comment on the Bechtel, is that it's so close to the one which is about very close to Cary Cove.
I'll probably call you back up when we get to item G, just so. it's on
Yeah,
the
but I
record.
just wanted to make that comment about Bechtel.
Okay.
All
right.
That's
And
so
your
close
name was,
together.
you said Sean?
Sean Cincinnati.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition to 509 Bechtel? Name and address at the microphone, please, ma'am.
Joyce Gagliano. I live at 119 Sherwood Circle, Ocean Springs. I'm in the same situation with Sean. I live next door to Sean, and I'm opposed to both of those. I bought a house in a residential neighborhood that was established, and that's where I expected to live. Did not expect commercial businesses to be right on my street. Just strongly opposed, very strongly opposed.
Ms. Joyce.
Thank you.
Name and address at the microphone, please, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Deborah Miller. I live at 101 Sherwood. I'm not in opposition, but for it. The people that rented at 103 for several years, having normal renters in there, you had a problem all the time. I can't see where they're calling this commercial, because if you have a house and you decide to rent it, what's the difference between having them stay a week, a month, a night, as opposed to staying there month long? You're going to deal with the same stuff, and you just call the police, whatever it is. If you have things. That's it.
Okay. So just for the record, you are in support of. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Let's just go. Anybody else have any comments, either for or against? This is on Bechtel, 509 Bechtel. Once, twice sold. All right. Do you have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Matthew, second Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right, we're out of public hearing. Do I have any more questions, comments, concerns?
All right, Andy, before we move forward with this, we've got a lot of issues with previous application on Cary Cove. The alderman did deny that application because of the findings with the subdivision rules and stuff. I'm going to say we are a recommending body as to hold up what the ordinance is. If the residents of Ocean Springs want to change, they need to talk to the alderman and get forward and have the power to say, we don't want this here. But for us to go and deny something that we don't have, we are upholding the ordinance as it is right now. So please go before your alderman talk to them and get them to change the ordinance if you feel that strong about it. So that's what I'm saying. And
So, yeah, gotcha. Anybody else got any other questions, comments, concerns? We'll get it back from the next one. Anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
make a motion to approve a residential short-term rental permit for 509 Bechtel Boulevard, subject to annual renewal.
Motion by Kevin, second by Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So that will be on the September 6th Board of Aldermen agenda. All right, moving on is going to be 4F, public hearing 443 Bills Avenue, parcel ID 610-430-32000, Guy and Faye Barnes requesting a residential short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion by Mike, second by Matthew. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed.
Okay. On this one, you do have the local property manager that meets the residency requirement. The notice was sent to 37 property owners, and we did have some calls for some questions, but no input was received prior to this meeting. One thing I do want to point out is the inspection on the 14th did approve a maximum occupancy of 6, while the request for 5 vehicles was initially approved. We went back and reevaluated based on some other factors, and the applicants have agreed to reduce that to 3. So, the proposal in front of you will now change to approve for 6 people and 3 vehicles. Everything else was compliant with no code violations or other infractions reported in the last 12 months. So with that being said, it is subject to approval with annual renewal.
Okay. And one thing is, we did get a letter in our packets. I'm sure everybody saw. Does anybody want to make a motion to it? I'm sorry. It's a letter in support of that application.
So moved to adopt the
So we have a motion by Matthew and a second by Joe to accept this into the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So those will be in the minutes for the board. We are in public hearing. We've heard staff report. Is the applicant here? Did y'all want to speak? You can get a second chance if you need to, okay? Is anybody else here in favor of 443 Bills Avenue, short-term rental? Anybody in favor of? Anybody in opposition to 443 Bills Avenue, short-term rental? Anybody at all? 443 Bills, once, twice, sold. I assume y'all don't have anything else to say after that rigorous comment period. Got a motion to close public hearing. All right, do we have any questions, comments, concerns from the commissioners?
Who made those motions?
Oh, I'm sorry, it was Kevin made a motion and Marshall, did you second?
I have it the other way around.
Well,
Either way.
we'll go motion Marshall, second Kevin. All right, did we vote? We're out of public hearing, right? All right, questions, comments, concerns? Once, twice, sold. Do I have anybody want to make a stab at a motion?
Can I make a motion that the residential short-term rental request for 443 Bills Avenue be approved subject to annual renewal?
Okay. We have a motion by Marshall, second by Kevin.
Before you vote, could you,
Yeah, we gotta make the motion.
change in parking.
Change the
Yeah, would you
number
like to, we have a motion on the table, would you like to amend your motion to include a maximum vehicle of 3?
Amend the motion to include, change the maximum number of vehicles to 3.
Perfect. All right, you still second?
I already seconded.
Reed seconds. He seconds his second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so that will be on September 6th meeting. And just, you know what that means, they're the final say. It'll be on something called the consent agenda. They probably won't talk about it, but I always say if you don't go, they're going to talk about it, and if you do go, they won't. So it's up to you from there. All right, last item under new business is going to be item 4G, public hearing. It's ironically for a short-term rental at 103 Sherwood Circle, parcel ID 613-750-17. Paula Richter requesting the short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
All right, I got a motion by Kevin. Do I hear a second by Marshall? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Ms. Carey?
Okay, and I will just, a note on that, how, you know, we've had so many lately, and just to remind both the audience and the commissioners, for a while there, they were on hold when they were expanding the cap, so this has just been playing catch-up to those had been applying, so we're not having a rush on them, we're just catching up.
You said this is probably going to be the last month we have this.
This many. This is the last time that we'll have this many. There are,
For the last 3 months.
and it all depends on how fast they get through the approval process, and it's usually the inspection that takes a minute. So just to explain, that's why we're not having a rush on them. We're just catching up with ourselves. So for this one, we do have the local property manager that meets the residency requirement. That's been verified. 80 notices were sent out, and no input was received prior to this meeting, or at least the assembly of the packet. The inspection on July 18th it passed with 6 occupancy and 2 vehicle as requested, with no complaints, no reports found in the file. It meets all requirements by the ordinance and is recommended for approval, subject to annual renewal.
All right, any questions, comments, concerns for staff before we go public?
Same question. It's not a covenant.
We didn't find any.
Okay, anybody else? All right, is the applicant here tonight? You applicant, did you want to speak? You can do it now, you can come back later if you want to hear everybody else out first, up to you.
Well, I just wanted to address his concern.
Name and address at the microphone, please.
Paula Richter, 516 Martin Avenue. The concern that you're having, I understand it, but I bought that house in 2008, and the person I bought it from, it was pretty bad shape. I put a lot of money into it, and out of all these years renting it, I've had one good renter who took care of it and made it look good. Other than that one lady, I've like had to kick people out. I've had to evict. I've had, she knows. I go by and they've got a trampoline and they never cut the grass. It looks like Swamp Dog. It's just terrible, and I don't know what to do because that was like, I had them in there for a year, and this was 2 months into it, trying to get someone out of these long-term rentals, even if they're destroying your property. It's tough, and I was embarrassed because the neighbors, they just, I felt bad for them because everybody takes such good care of their houses, their lawns, and it's like, oh my God. So this has got to be a lot better. I can't imagine it. It takes me sometimes 3 months to clean up and have to put new sheetrock in. I don't know. They don't close the shower curtain ever. And I just been said, this is going to be better. I know it's going to be better. It's going to, the appearance of the yard, it's already improved. I've had the neighbors come up to me and thank me. And I guess because the ordinances that are set, they're more strict, they're spot on, and if there's anything that they destroy or that they deviate, we call the police, we got their credit card, and they're gone. And so I think people's property is more protected. So.
Thank you, Ms. Bob. All right, I'll get to you in just a second. We're going to go. Anybody else want to speak in favor, in support? Come on up. Name and address. I think we could guess.
Deborah Miller, 101 Sherwood. I'm right next door, and I agree with Paula with everything she said. Like I said, the previous tenants that she had were just appalling. Constant noise, constantly calling the police, on and on and on, nonstop. I feel with having Airbnb people, you do have more stricter regulations against them, so it's easier. If one violation, you call and boom, they're gone. You don't have to. She doesn't have to worry about it. We don't have to sit there and go, God, are they ever going to be getting out? When finally we see, when we had in the past year somebody leaving, we were like, oh, thank God, because what we had to put up, being right next door, was horrendous. So having, 10 o'clock come, it's, quiet time. If they're not quiet, of course, we're going to call, say something. I have her phone number. I'll call her, tell her. I'll call the cops, whatever it takes. But before, it was like the cops come out, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to record it, you have to. I think with the stricter Airbnb guidelines and stuff, it'd be just a lot easier. So I'm in favor.
Thank you, Ms. Deborah. All right, anybody else in support of? All right, anybody in opposition to? Come on back up to the microphone. Name and address for the record.
John Cincinnati, 117 Sherwood Circle. I agree, people, and I agree because I had a horrible neighbor next door to me. I did not know you could sell that many drugs in the middle of Ocean Spring and it not be noticed. You know the house I'm talking about. It was there. The house just on the other side of it was a rental house also. It was horrible. I'm not a dog person. I fed their dogs. Because, I mean, it was horrible. The junk in the yard. We could not get the city to come clean up the mess that they left. Because, and I agree, that is a bad situation. Now, if you call the police enough, they will come.
They do come.
But
we can keep the comments here.
I do not think that the getting rid of bad renters, I do not think Airbnb is the answer. I think you got the same thing. They're just going about it in a different manner, and they're not going to be there long enough. But I do not think that these Airbnbs is good for the city and definitely not good for our neighborhood. But I agree with both of them. Renters are horrible. I bought my house and spent a pile of money on it. I don't like the rental houses in the neighborhood. I want it to be the neighborhood that I spent a bunch of money on my house in. And I don't like Airbnbs because it's short-term rental. So the background search, is there a background search on the ones that's coming for Airbnb?
The city doesn't regulate that. I mean, that would be up to
It would. I mean, but
it'd be up to the owner.
The applicants have the right to do a lot of things that the city wouldn't, or even full-time renters, and I know that some of them do background checks. They look at any lists, and they are allowed to not rent based on that.
Well, they're
Yeah.
right. In long-term rental, they're allowed to not rent also.
Right. Yeah.
No, and actually, to further that, on the big ones, the VRBO.com and the Airbnb, the renters get rated no differently than the rentee, right?
Right, so they don't have to rent to somebody.
If you trash somebody and you get 1 star, and a lot of people won't let you come. So, I mean, we don't get into that.
Right, no, we don't. I just wondering, but I do have a request here tonight, if possible.
Okay.
I'm not very familiar with this, what I'm trying to prevent here, and I feel for the property owner and the neighbor, because I've been there. I didn't have a lot of time to get, and no letters were sent. I called the city, and they said there was no sense in doing a petition. I called City Hall to turn in before tonight. That's what I was told on the phone. I need more time.
Okay. So this will be, it won't actually be heard by the alderman until September 6th, and it will actually have to be publicly advertised. You should get another letter, right? No, I'm just kidding. I was kidding. I'm joking.
You'll get a straight one.
But it'll definitely be on the September 6th meeting. If you have any other concerns, I just would recommend, this is Ward 4, isn't it?
But to prevent it from being on September the 6th.
September the 6th, it'll be on the agenda, so any input we receive between now and then will be included to the board.
And we have seen petitions before, so I don't know who said that or what was said exactly, but I mean, if you wanted to do one, I mean,
I guess I'm asking the planning commission for a favor. Is there any way to table this to give me more time before we have to go to the board meeting?
No, not really. I mean,
On
it's
what grounds?
On what ground?
Meaning, is there you feel like the neighborhood as a whole?
Yeah, I can gather up people, but with their work schedules, they couldn't be here tonight.
Right.
And I didn't have much time because I didn't read the letter till
you
last
have about 27 days to get it.
I mean, you have, if we receive input, and written is always better, email or dropping it off.
I need
And
to
it's,
find out who to send that to.
you can send it to, on the notice, there was a planning email address or a phone number, and you can call Amanda, who's not here tonight. We miss her, but she will handle that, and she'll take that. But our office is next door in the 2-story building upstairs, so you can bring it straight to us there. And as long as we get it by the 31st, then we can easily incorporate it in what we submit to the board.
If you're Ward 3, that'd be Kevin Wade, right?
Kevin Wade is Ward 3, yes.
Yeah, both.
And I will say, sir, that last month, we did have a short-term rental that was approved by us and was turned down by the Board of Aldermen. So it does happen.
Carrick Cove, yes.
It does happen.
Which is pretty close to us also.
All right.
Different circumstances, but
It's not a
One
losing
more
fight.
question, if you don't mind, since I'm able to get down here tonight. I have a question about zoning in Ocean Springs.
Okay. So before you go now, we actually, after this meeting, we're going to have a general public comment period. Can I bring you up then? Just keep it in turn. Thank you. Might just get in the chair or something. All right. Anybody else in opposition to 103 Sherwood Circle? Anybody else in opposition? 103, you coming up, Chick? Name and address for the microphone, please.
I live at 135 Sherwood Circle.
Name and address,
My name
Chick.
is Chick Cody.
Yeah, thank you.
And, for 61 years. And I know probably more about that house than anybody in here. But I'm going to tell you something. It looks better than it's ever looked. And we've had a lot of problems with people in that house over the years. There have been about 5 houses on Sherwood Circle that we've had a lot of problems with. In fact, there's one right now that's on the corner. It's a yellow house that a guy owns, will not live in it. All he does is keep the grass cut whenever it gets this high. So there's a problem there. But listen, when I bought my house, that was a residence. Still is. It's not commercial. It's residential. Somehow, somewhere along the way, Ocean Springs, the Planning Commission, the Board of Aldermen have forgotten that. Ocean Springs has been noted and is single-family dwellings. Never was meant for apartments. Never was meant for commercials, developments in neighborhoods. That's why people move here. That's why we have taxes as high as they are, because we launched out the best school system in the nation, or in Mississippi for sure. One of our school systems, one of them is one of the highest in the nation. It's good. But listen, I don't object so much as probably somebody that would live right beside it, but you heard this woman, she says she lives beside it, and she is not objecting to it. The problem is you know, these people, and I know were to sell it, and somebody moves in there, and then it goes downhill again, and it starts all over again. And I know that we have very little control over that. But listen, I wish one of you would take into consideration a neighborhood is the sanctity, it's a domicile, it's a home, it's a house. It's not meant to be impugned or impeded or any way put on by a commercial adventure. That's why you have zoning. And although it is, I've had a lot of rental properties, so I know what I'm talking about. I've had some problems and been nightmares, okay? And I know how hard it is to do that, to have that kind of, that's why I don't have them anymore, get rid of all of them. But I'm going to tell you something, and I object to it for this reason. It starts a chain of events going. I think there's already a few of them in that neighborhood, at least 5 or 6 that I know about. And it has a tendency to degrade the neighborhood. And we all could do probably a better job of keeping our individual homes like we'd like to. Of course, with this rain, it makes a difference. But listen, I want you to think about this. Residential 1, 2, and 3. Residential, that R stands for restricted. Restricted use. When is R not restricted? The reason you buy a home is because it is restricted. It's restricted to 2 things: peace and tranquility in your neighborhood, and also the fact that that home's value is going to stay there because it's restricted. When you have something commercial inside of you and somebody doesn't take care of it, it really creates a problem. God, I know about that probably more than anybody in here. But listen, I just want to tell you, Planning Commission, I used to be the chairman of the Planning Commission a few years ago, so I know what I'm talking about. This is where it starts, right here. You make the decisions that guides the city. And somehow we've come away from what it was. I was here when we started the planning commission.
Chick, we usually like to keep it down to 3 minutes. Can you wrap it up for us, please?
I'll try to, but I'm gonna tell you something. You need to think about residential restrictions, residential areas, because once the cat's out of the bag, it's over. Once you have an investment in the house, and something happens to make it absolutely miserable where you can't live there, it's not right, and we need to have it restricted for a reason.
All right, thank you, Chick. Anybody else want to speak at all, either for or against the 103 Sherwood Circle? Yeah, you didn't use your full 3 minutes. We're going to give you one more.
Okay, Deborah Miller, 101 Sherwood. I understand what everybody keeps talking about, and I think when you talk about being commercial, okay, so if a lot of people, times have changed and stuff, and to me, if someone's renting their home, they're making money off of it, okay? So whether it's Airbnb or they're doing it long-term, it is. What about people that are doing childcare from their home? Is that not commercial? What about people who are working from home? What about people that have a lawn care service, but they live at home, but all their equipment's at their home? We can go on. Where are we going to define this? I honestly think this is the best thing that's going to happen. We don't have to put up with people coming in there. The landlords cannot get them out because of whatever reason, and it's harder. And this way they're here, and everybody's happy. So I don't know.
Thank you, Ms. Deborah. Anybody else? 103 Sherwood. Name and address of the microphone, please. I'm going to guess it's Joyce.
Jasmine, 119 Sherwood Circle. I think it upsets me about, I know there's problem renters, and I've seen people come and go in that house, and I'm sure if I lived right next to it, I would really be upset. But if you're having a problem being a landlord and renting, sell the house then. Sell it. I'd rather see someone permanently own that house than short-term people who come in. They're there just to have a good time. They're not looking at it as their home. They don't care about it. They don't care about the neighborhoods. They don't care about the kids in the neighborhoods, the pets in the neighborhoods. They're there just to have a good time. I don't want people having a good time in my neighborhood. I want residents who have families, who care about it, who care about each other. That's what residential neighborhoods should be. And, you talk about the commercial, rental being the same as commercial. I don't believe that at all. A renter at least considers that their home. They're going to get to know their neighbors. They belong there. Short-term people don't care. They don't care. They're there briefly and they're gone. They don't care about me next door. They don't care about the kid. They don't care about the cat walking down the street. It's completely different. So I just don't understand the argument. And I'm just strongly, once again, opposed. It doesn't belong in my neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, anybody else want to speak? Once, twice. Ms. Paul, we tend to give the applicant 3 more minutes if you want it. You're welcome to come say anything, or we can close public hearing. And I'm sorry, I meant to say something when Chick got done before you get up. Chick said something about if she sells it, just so y'all know, it goes with the person, not with the property. So she's not allowed to sell it as a short-term rental. She can sell it, the next person can reapply. Whether or not they get accepted is to be seen, but it cannot go, she can't sell this as a short-term rental to somebody else. I wanted to clear that up. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paula. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Great. Paula Richter. So a lot of people who I didn't understand the process of going through creating your house into a short-term rental. I had no idea. And it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of specific safety, the lights, the carbon monoxide, and it's furnished. It has to be totally furnished before it's inspected. And that's a big chunk of change and an investment, before it could even pass, and at the end they could say no, and what am I going to do with all this furniture now? The point is, people who rent the short-term rentals, they expect a really nice house. And they appreciate the house, they appreciate how nice it looks, and they usually take really, really good care of it. And there's a whole grading system, and the property manager, I'm a 5-star. There's nothing, it might be a 4.5 in there somewhere, but it's gonna be a 5-star, which means there's not gonna be a lot of trashy people coming in and destroying and making noise. I mean, maybe somebody might slip through the cracks, but I kinda doubt it. Not with the kind of money and expectations that the whole VRBO thing rules. It's not like a hotel where they just go in and just turn the water on and leave it. It's nothing like that. There's a good process in place, and you can go by that house now, and it looks tenfold better than it has ever looked. And I would do that every time someone would come in to rent the house, and then within 2 months it looked like hell. It's terrible, so depressing. So go by the house every so often, and I go by every day. Well, you know, it looks better.
Let's keep conversations busy. Yeah, thank you.
So that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. All right. Do I have a motion to close public hearing? Motion Matthew, second Marshall, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, we are out. Questions, concerns?
Go ahead. Open this one up a little bit because this is seeming to be a pattern of recent. Short-term rentals, our ordinances are written the way they are. We are a recommending body to the aldermen as our ordinance are. The issues that y'all see are heartfelt and compelling. For us to go against the ordinances would mean the aldermen would get a final say-so regardless, because it could be appealed to them. If you are heartfelt with it, go to your aldermen, all the aldermen, and ask for that ordinance to be changed. As short-term rentals are, I'm going to ask Carolyn, how many issues have we had citywide with short-term rental calls, with partying, noise complaints, issues, and whole?
Up until last week, 0. Okay. And I have one minor one that I'm dealing with now, and it will be, basically if we find that it's founded, then that person is put on notice. If it happens again, it could be used as revocation.
It's about 7 years, right?
It's about 7 years. The first one was approved in 2015. So, up until this week, 0.
Now, I'm actually familiar with the one that you're talking about. My mother-in-law lives on Catherine Drive, so I'm familiar with that one. So
on Shepherd Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cops were called.
So there's a long-standing record with it. I'm going to get a little long-winded with this because this is something that I'm passionate about. I dealt with short-term rentals the entire time. I actually have one in Ocean Springs Harbor. That's part of the county. But out of 200 stays that we've had on the boat, we've had 2 bad issues. My complaint coming back around to this is when you have a subdivision, an area off of Bechtel and everything, that is a bedroom community, the citizens need to get up and speak very loudly toward our aldermen and say, we do not want to do short-term rentals in our area anymore. So there can be covenants set in place, but for us to go against that, there's no evidence right now for to say not to. I'm saying go before your aldermen and speak loud. They can pull it.
I have a question.
Yes, Sean.
Go before the alderman and question it, ask them to change the ordinance. I know the process, how that works. That can't be done before September the 6th.
You can ask your alderman to pull it off the consent agenda.
Try to get it tabled here tonight to give me some more time.
The problem is when we have a whole list of applicants that are pulled, if we table it for the 9th tonight, it can get appealed before the aldermen regardless.
I understand that. I know the process.
Okay.
Okay.
Residents have another option as well. You can establish HOAs and put covenants on the neighborhoods. If an HOA is established and says there are no short-term rentals in this neighborhood, there will be no short-term rentals in that neighborhood. So neighborhoods can take charge of themselves.
Question on Sherwood Circle, to form an HOA, correct me, because I may be wrong, wouldn't we have to have 100% of the residents wanting to join the HOA to form?
We can't speak on that, we don't know.
Well, we can't, we have rental houses.
That's,
So they
I'm not an expert on establishing
Right,
an
but I
HOA.
mean, I checked on that part, so the ones who bed and breakfast and interested in them is not gonna sign a petition to form an HOA, so that one was out, I checked it.
We can't change the ordinance tonight, we can only abide it, that's all I can say on that regard. Keep in mind, we're at a public hearing, we can address the audience as needed. Anybody else got any questions, comments, concerns? That's twice sold, does anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
I'll go for it. Recommend approval of a residential short-term permit for 103 Sherwood Circle, subject to annual renewal.
All right, I got a motion by Kevin, I got a second by Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. All right, that'll be on the September 6th agenda. All right, next item, number 5, general public comment, things that are not on the agenda tonight. I believe, Sean, you had one.
Yes, sir.
Name and address for the record.
John Cincinnati, I live at 117 Sherwood Circle. What would be my process to go through to get a zoning change, to put my snowball stand at 117 Sherwood Circle on the driveway?
Probably not going to get approved, but
Why?
the best thing to
If I
do,
could ask why.
it's not allowed use in the district. There's no ordinance that would allow that use in your district.
You could go for a variance before aldermen
Well,
It would have to be a rezoning.
it would have to be a rezoning. There's some details that we need to know before we, advise on a path, so maybe if you call and talk to
Sure,
Mr. Morgan.
I'll try my best to get it.
It depends on the type. Rezoning is always problematic just because it changes it permanently and allows things that maybe you wouldn't do and somebody else might.
I'm sorry, I
And
missed the rezoning. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
apply
so
for
spot zoning.
But correct me if I'm wrong, is if you have a business adventure within Ocean Springs that is out of that zoning or whatever, you can go before the board or alderman and get a variance to run that business within that.
Yes and no. It's not like a straightforward, but it depends. There's a lot of factors. It depends on the type of business. There are some businesses types like daycare or things that are allowed, so we'd have to look at the type of business and then advise a path.
I mean, it's only open 3 to 7, so it wouldn't create problems at night.
So, but that's what we recommend. Just call us and we'll.
I'm sorry. When I spoke, I didn't hear the word rezone. I was thinking of just opening it. Yeah, but you could do that. You would just need to go, probably just come meet with Amanda.
Yeah, just make an appointment, come meet with Mr. Morgan, and we could get a little more information.
Yeah, it's a fairly simple application process, and then it's just a process.
Because with the added residents coming in on a regular basis, I think it's going to be a good place for it. If they bring kids with them, I really think it's going to be good. So I will get the process started on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else in the audience that had anything non-agenda related to speak to the commission about? All right. Move on down to item 6, commissioner forum. You got anything to discuss?
The only thing you need.
Bring that back with you next week. So every time we get a new board member, we do a revote on officers. So y'all take that with you. Does Amanda just want us to email it to her?
Yeah, if you have any questions, I would email Amanda. She should be in the office tomorrow. If not, she'll be responding to emails. So if you need to know about the process or any of the finer points of this, officers, please just get in touch with her.
Can you explain the process on how we roll off and how we stay on? I know it's a little confusing after this last one. And not that we don't love Joey, but I think that
take it personal.
Yeah, no, the way it's set, and recently they refined the ordinance to kind of guide it a little bit more. They try to keep a good distribution of wards, but it doesn't have to be exact. But what they did is they alternated. So you have a 3-year term, but if someone leaves in the middle of a term and it's replaced, they only are replaced to fill that term. It doesn't restart the clock. So that way they can keep the terms kind of spread out. We were having situations where we had 5 people going off at the same time, and they were all filled by somebody in the same ward, and it was just, So the ordinance is designed to kind of keep it a little more distributed so you don't have this vacuum when they change.
Is there what the formal process
Yes.
of forming the commissioners to, when their term's coming up, what we need to do, and if we want to be.
I'll speak to it from actual experience. I've always, re-upped twice, and I've always got an email saying, I don't know what happened, I'm not speaking to that. But me personally, I've got an email saying, hey, your term is about to expire. If you want to reapply, I had to fill the application out. Right.
Yeah, we keep track, and this isn't just for y'all, it's all of the commissions re-up at the same time so we can keep it consistent. So a month or so before, I'm not sure how long, the mayor's office handles it, but Amanda will notify our commissions that they're about to expire. But then after that, it's an application process. The application's available in the mayor's office, and you have to submit that to be considered. If there is a specific ward that by ordinance is favored, or preferred, then that ward would get preference. But if nobody from that ward applies, they can consider any application. So, like I said, that's just intended to kind of keep things even keel. But yeah, you should receive an email notification and keep track of it. If you ever wonder when you're about to expire, Amanda's got a list of it, so she can tell you when you're going to expire. So
Certainly when expires. Maybe not on this commission, but expires.
Okay, I will rephrase that. When your term expires. Yeah, we got to be careful with saying that.
Thank you.
But yeah, so it is, it's a communication thing, but we also ask that you kind of keep track of it. And if you ever can't remember when your term expires, just call Amanda. We can let you know.
Anybody else? I just would like to say thank you, Planning Department, for doing such a great job.
That's why we're here.
Joey, did you have a speech prepared?
No, I don't have a speech prepared. I'm just glad to be here and glad to be here to serve.
Can you update us on the issue with the covenants for short-term rentals? I know it went to legal's got to make.
Right. We're waiting for a little more fine-tuned direction on that. So we're not actively handling that at this point, so I don't have an update that I can give. But it's under discussion as far as how to handle those situations when they arise.
So when short-term rentals come up, should we be asking if it is covenants? Because it's not a question that's asked on the application.
Right. Before the next meeting, I should have more direction on that, and I can give you that.
Okay. I got a motion to it. I'm sorry, you say something?
No, I was just saying, I think his questions on covenants tonight was more than fair. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I had a motion to adjourn by Marshall. Anybody
So
want a second? Yes, I'm gonna give that one to Joey. Seconded.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. These people are jumping the gun. Ladies first.
Yeah, lucky boy.
Mike.
We're still live streaming until I tell Raven.
That was Adam, right? Alan. I'm sorry.
Oh, what baby? You already forgot his name.
I just saw her like.
I'm good. Running around in circles.
Earlier, but I got caught up.
I'll see you next time.
Right, when it goes,
Thanks,
You know
guys.
what? I'm just sitting back and listening and soaking it in.
if they
Thing I like to say, the 2 worst mistakes you can make.
So if you do come to the meeting and you'll notice on the consent, they get to that point and they don't get to pulled, your item doesn't get pulled, but you're good. Right, right. And that's, so that's, we try to, most of them do go through and a lot of times don't have that needs to be had. No, I mean, the ordinance is what it is, and if there's no valid reason, the question is what they were asking about is one of the previous